Good day, you are welcome to this channel. Please don't forget to share, subscribe, like and share to people that know that this thing will be a benefit unto them. But today, within the short period of time that we want to look at a topic that says the sum and products of roots of a quadratic equation. So I see this topic, it appears both in our mathematics and in further mathematics. You know, in your quadratic equation, we have a general form of our quadratic equation that says ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, because we are talking about quadratic equation. And because the highest power of the unknown variable here is 2, that means when we find the solution of the quadratic equation at the end, we are going to have two solutions. For assuming that our x1 is equals to a value, let me say that value is p, and also our x2 is going to be a what? A q. That means for every solution of a quadratic equation, we have two solutions for the equation. But now the product and sum of these roots comes in a form that if you are given a quadratic equation and we are asked to form another quadratic equation, how can we do that? That's where this topic comes from, the sum and product of the roots. Now, instead of writing x1 as the first root of the quadratic equation and x2 as the second root, we try to replace the first root as let our x1 equals to alpha, and we let our x2 to be equals to what we call a beta. Now, for sum of the root now, since we have made our root to be this, sum of the roots will be alpha plus beta. This is what we call the sum of roots. And the product of the root will be alpha beta. This is what we call the what? The product of roots. Now, since we have established this, so we need to get the formula for the sum of the root, and we need to get the formula for the product of the root. Hope you are following. Don't forget the other time I said our quadratic equation is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So if I want to get the formula for the sum of the root and product of the root, if I divide through by a, I will have divide through by a, I have my x squared plus b over a x plus c over a equals 0. And don't forget from our quadratic equation, a factor method, that if you are given the root of the equation, and from the root we are asked to form back the quadratic equation. How do we do it? From the root, we are given the root of the equation. Don't forget, we say alpha and beta are the roots of the quadratic equation. So if alpha and beta are the root of the quadratic equation, I want to form back that equation. That means I'm saying that my x is equals to alpha, or x is equals to beta. That means from here I can say my x minus alpha is equals to 0, or x minus beta is equals to 0. Since both are equals to 0, I can say x minus alpha into bracket x minus beta equals to 0. If you see, if you expand this equation, this is what we are going to get. X squared minus x into bracket alpha plus beta plus alpha beta will be equals to 0. That's what we get. So if you compare this equation and this equation together, you will see that the coefficient of our x squared here is 1, also is 1 here, and the coefficient of our x here, which is alpha plus beta, here is b over a. That means it's saying that the expression for my alpha plus beta in that equation is minus b over a. And if you see here, which is the constant here, is alpha beta. That means the expression for my alpha beta means what? C over a. That means if you are given a quadratic equation, the sum of the roots is what? B over a. And what is our b? The b is the coefficient of x. And a is the coefficient of our x squared. If you see from here, b is the coefficient of x and a is the coefficient of our x squared, and c is a constant. Hope you are following. Now let's try and solve a question for this so that we see what we are trying to do. Please don't forget this, that the alpha plus beta is minus b over a, and our alpha beta is c over a. Now let's look at this question together. The question is saying that if alpha and beta are the roots of the quadratic equation 2x squared plus 5x minus 6 equals to 0. And I'll say find the equation whose roots are alpha minus 2 and beta minus 2. Now we are given this question that alpha and beta are the root of this quadratic equation. Now we should find the equation whose roots are this and this. But from this first equation given, we can see that the coefficient of our x squared here, which is 2, that means our a is equals to 2. And the coefficient of our x here, which is our b, that means our b is equals to 5. And the constant value here, which is our c, that means equals to minus 6. So the sum of the root for this quadratic equation is alpha plus beta will be equals to minus b over a, and that's minus 5 over 2. And alpha beta, the product is c over a, and that's minus 6 over 2, and that's equals to minus 3. Now since we have established, you have got the alpha plus beta, which is minus 5 over 2, and alpha beta, which is minus 6 over 2, and that gives us minus 3. So how do we now get the equation whose roots are these? Whose roots are alpha minus 2 and beta minus 2. Alpha minus 2 and beta minus 2. This is very simple. This, what we just do, we just say this new equation that we want to form, let the root of that equation, the first root, let it be our alpha prime, which is equals to alpha minus 2. And the second root, let it be our beta prime, which is equals to beta minus 2. So the sum of the roots for that new equation, which is alpha prime plus beta prime, will be equals to, that means we are adding the sum, alpha minus 2 plus beta minus 2. And that's alpha plus beta minus 4. And don't forget, from our first equation, what's our alpha plus beta? Minus 5 over 2. That means we are saying this is equals to minus 5 over 2 minus 4. And if you solve this properly, that means we are saying that our alpha prime plus beta prime will be equals to, the LCM here is 2 minus 5 minus 8. And that will be minus 13 over 2. Are we following? And now the product of the equation, which is alpha prime, beta prime, is equals to, we are multiplying the two. Alpha minus 2 into bracket beta minus 2. If we expand this, we are coming to alpha beta minus 2 alpha minus 2 beta plus 4. If we factorize this further, That gives us alpha beta minus 2 into bracket alpha plus beta plus 4. So that means my product of the root alpha prime beta prime will be, what's my alpha beta? That's minus 3 minus 2 into bracket alpha plus beta minus 5 over 2 plus 4. And if you solve this, we have minus 3 plus 5 plus 4. And that's 2, that's 6. So that means, since we know the product of the equation, the sum of the roots and the product of the roots. So how do we form the quadratic equation? We just say that the sum of the roots, which is x minus into bracket, what's our sum of the roots? Minus 13 over 2 into bracket, what's our product of the root? Now our quadratic equation from is x squared minus x into bracket alpha plus beta. Now it is alpha prime beta prime plus alpha prime beta prime equals 0. So that is the equation. X squared minus x into bracket. What's our alpha prime beta prime? Minus 13 over 2 plus alpha prime. This alpha prime plus beta prime, sum of the roots, and the product of the root is 6 equals 0. So our equation is 2x squared plus 13x plus 12 equals 0. Equation, that's the quadratic equation whose root are what? Alpha minus 2 and beta minus 2. Hope you find this interesting. Please don't forget to subscribe, to like this video, and share, and help us share to students that are very in need of this. Thank you. Welcome back. Please don't forget to subscribe, share, and like this video. Please, this is the second example on the sum and the root of the equation. Now let's go through this example. The question is saying the root of the equation x squared plus mx plus 11 equals to 0. X squared plus mx plus 11 equals to 0, where alpha and beta are the root of the equation. As we all know, it says where m is a constant. M here is a constant. And I say if alpha squared plus beta squared is 27, that we should find the values of m. The values of m. So how are we going to go about this? The first thing that we first know that we need to do is to find our a, b, and c. As we all know that our a is the coefficient of x squared. That means my a here will be what? 1. And our b is the coefficient of x. That means my b will be equal to m. And my c, which is the constant, my c equals 11. Now, from our sum of the root, which is alpha plus beta, is equal to minus b over a. And that means it is minus m over 1, and that's minus m. And the product of roots, which is alpha beta, is c over a, which is equal to my c is 11 over a, 1, and that's equals to 11. Now, if we check the equation given to us, alpha squared plus beta squared equals to 27. How can we get alpha squared plus beta squared? How can we get alpha squared plus beta squared? How can we get alpha squared plus beta squared? Now, don't forget that from our expansion, let me say I have something like alpha plus beta all squared. That means if I expand this, I can get my alpha squared and beta squared. This will give me alpha squared plus 2 alpha beta plus beta squared. Are we following? So that means alpha plus beta all squared If I bring these 2 alpha beta out, minus 2 alpha beta will be equals to my alpha square plus beta square. So that means I've been able to establish the expression for alpha square plus beta square. And in that question, it says it's equals to 27. It's equals to 27. So that means that alpha plus beta all square minus 2 alpha beta will be equals to what? 27. Now in that question, our alpha plus beta, what's our value for our alpha plus beta? Alpha plus beta is equals to minus m. So that means we have minus m squared minus 2 into bracket. Our alpha beta, which is c over a, is 11, which is equals to 27. So that means this form a quadratic equation you get that say m squared minus 22 equals 27. So if I say m squared, if I take 22 outside, it will be 27 plus 22. So m squared, this will give us 49. So to get my m will be plus or minus root 49. So that means my m is equals to plus or minus 7. So that means my m can be 7, and also my m could be what? Minus 7. Hope you find this interesting. Please don't forget, subscribe to this channel, like this channel, and please spread it, share it with people that you know that this channel can be a benefit. Thank you very much.